Welcome to week 33 of my Mounjaro journey. My name is Ginger and this is my channel Ginger Goes GLP-1, where we discuss all things GLP-1, and in my specific case that would be Mounjaro. I'm currently on week 33 and I am on week 17 of a 7.5 milligram pen. So essentially I've done nearly half of my journey on 7.5 milligrams and I've lost upwards of 60 pounds. More on that to come later, since I started on the 1st of October in 2024. So I'm about 7 months into my journey now and I'm feeling good, and I'm very, very pleased to report that my hunger is back this week. Not back with a vengeance, but it's back. If you watched my video last week, you'll know that for some reason I was having mega suppression and could barely eat. So if you're looking for somebody who is trying to approach this in a balanced way and, keeping the calories, exercise and everything all in moderation, then I might be the one for you. If you're looking for how to eat as little as possible and lose as maximum amount of weight in as quick a period as you can, I'm probably not the person to follow. But if you are new here, my starting weight was 247.8 pounds. In stone, that's 17 stone 9, and in kilos, that's 112.4 kilos. So like I said, I'm on week 33 now, and what I tend to do on these videos is go through mood, hunger, cravings, sleep, side effects, non-scale victories, goals, calories, all different kinds of things, just to sort of let you know how my week's going. And one thing you will know if you've been doing this for a little while is the Mounjaro journey can change as you're kind of going through it. It can be as different from one week to the next as it was before you started and when you started. Like I said, last week, my hunger was so suppressed. I was not feeling sick, but just a feeling like I'd eaten 2 Christmas dinners back to back, and I just couldn't eat. And I really, really, really did not like that feeling. It's very uncomfortable, and I don't know why that happened. I did posit that potentially the wrong dose was in the wrong pen, but I think everyone's set me on the right path, that's not possible with all of the sort of checks and safety that they have to do in the factories. So yeah, I've let that one go. But it was a very strange one. I'm not going to lie, because like I said, I've been doing 7.5 milligrams for 17 weeks. So you'd think that my body would kind of be used to the 7.5 milligrams, but for whatever reason, it threw up. It threw up that little kind of blip. I don't know what you want to call it, but it's gone now. It's moved on. Thankfully, I still have suppression, but I do have adequate hunger. Okay, so going through, like I said, I tend to go through mood, hunger, cravings, etc. So mood this week hasn't been great, and I'm just going to say that's down to work. If you've followed me for a little while, you know that things with work aren't going well, and so yeah, my mood has been a bit of a roller coaster this week, and I do mean a roller coaster. Just trying to get to grips with everything. Like I said, I think there's a part of me that knows it's time to move on, but I live down in Cornwall. The job market down here uh, isn't as varied as elsewhere in the country, and I would potentially be looking at a huge drop in salary to move on. And, I want to stay on Mounjaro. I'm trying to fit it into my budget. I'm trying to make sure that this is sustainable for me going forward. So that's a consideration, as well, you get used to a certain level of lifestyle, don't you, on a salary. So, but what I do know is I don't want to say it out loud because it's so hard. I'm desperately unhappy at work and I don't think I can carry on in my current state. And I definitely don't want it to affect my weight loss going forward. And what I do know is that when I'm stressed, my cortisol levels do go up, my sleep gets disturbed, which further impacts my hunger and everything. My main focus at the moment is becoming the best, healthiest, happiest, most fulfilled, and um, yeah, I don't know, like not kind, but the best person I can be in society. Like how can I be the best version of myself? And I know that I'm not the best version of myself at the moment. So yeah, that's a bit of a work rant, and I do apologize if you don't appreciate that kind of content. When I'm speaking about these things, but it's really just to give you an overview of why my mood is so up and down. It's not Mounjaro. It's not Mounjaro affecting my mood. If anything, I would say Mounjaro is helping to balance my mood, keep my stress at bay, help manage my hunger. So I'm going to come on to cravings next, hunger and cravings. So, like I said, the hunger has returned. The hunger has returned moderately, which is good because obviously Mounjaro suppresses your hunger. So it's returned sufficiently for me to know that whatever happened last week has gone. Um, I'm going to mix in cravings with this. Cravings are, I want to say cravings are back, but they're not back in the true sense that they're back. They're back because I'm really stressed, and my old go to habits to deal with stress were to eat and to eat things like potato chips and pate and peanuts and cheese, all very salty. I'm not really a sweet tooth person, all very salty and crunchy, and pickles and things like that. And I noticed a lot of that, really been like wanting to eat all of the crisps or chips, crunchy, kind of like Doritos and cheese and onion crisps and cheese puffs, and all like strong flavors, because I think that's what I used to do. So I'm recognizing that the cravings are back, but not the food noise. And I don't know how other people differentiate between cravings and food noise, but I'm definitely not thinking about food all the time. I did post to a commenter, Emily, that on Friday I'd had a really stressful day at work, and I did go to the cupboards, and I was kind of opening and closing the cupboards, and I was looking for that way of managing my mood, and I recognized it in the moment, and I really was very frustrated by it, and I wanted to you know just take away how I felt, but I didn't really act on it. I made a conscious decision to stop. It was near dinner time, so I made a conscious decision to stop, to make a cup of tea. I cut a protein bar in half, and I made a cup of tea, half a protein bar. I went and sat outside in the sunshine, no distractions, no videos, YouTube music, just sat there listening to the bird sound. I drank my cup of tea. I ate my half a protein bar, even though it was just before dinner, because I needed to transition from being really stressed at work into being not stressed going into the weekend and having a pleasant evening. So that was very mindfully thought out. I was conscious of what I was doing. I made a conscious decision to eat something over and above what I needed to eat, that would help me feel like I had satisfied a bit of a craving whilst not going overboard. Before, I would have just shoved all of the things mindlessly into my mouth while being very stressed, very angry, and yeah, it would have turned into a bit of a wreck of an evening. But I didn't do that, so I'm really pleased about that. And then I did go on to have my dinner, my normal dinner, normal sized dinner. I think I had steak on Friday night. Can't really remember. I have steak quite a lot. Some people can't tolerate it on Mounjaro because of the fat content, etc. And beef is hard to digest, but actually it works really well for me. So yeah, I did have a steak. But yeah, so that's kind of mood, hunger, and cravings. like I said, the crunchy aspect. If I'd have had a packet of crisps in the house on Friday, I would have had them. And I think I could have moderated to like a portion size of them without like indulging in the whole bag. But I didn't have any. And this is the difference. It didn't feel sufficiently desperate for me to get in the car and drive to the store and go and get some. So again, I think that's a bit of a bonus. So yeah. Um, Side effects this week. As you know, I've got the itchy spot that I have. I've got the ear popping, which I've had for a couple of weeks now. And thank you to everyone that said to go to the doctor, but also thanks to Carol, who made a suggestion to try and eat first thing in the morning, and that it could be to do with fasting. Now, I've only done this for a week now, but it's very strange. So I eat within like 15 or 30 minutes of waking up, which I hate. I am a morning faster normally. I don't like eating breakfast. I never have liked eating breakfast. So I normally eat about 10:30, 11, even up to 12 o'clock. But I've been getting up 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then trying to eat something, which it almost chokes me in the morning. But the ear popping thing hasn't happened as much. It's happened 2 days, but usually later on in the day. So I've messaged Carol separately and said what I'm doing is I'm going to do. So I've done kind of like a week, and it has helped. Now I'm not going to eat first thing in the morning. I'm going to do a whole week of like fasting until, well, not fasting, but just not eating until I'm hungry. So about 10:30, 11, and see if the ear popping returns. And then I'm going to do another week where I do eat breakfast as soon as I wake up. So I have no idea of the mechanism of action of why that would work. But thank you for your suggestion, Carol. And I'm definitely trying this out because it did help, or coincidentally, it disappeared this week. I haven't got it this morning, and I haven't eaten this morning either. So I'm not quite sure, but we'll see how that goes. Um, other side effects. I still have got strong suppression, and when I eat, I get full very quickly at the moment. But like I said, my hunger is back to normal levels. So the side effect from last week of really strong is gone or reduced, thankfully. Like I said, I believe you should be eating adequately. Mounjaro for me is a tool to use sensibly to get down slowly to a reasonable weight, not a fast track to not eating and yeah, just starving myself down. That's not what I'm doing. um Sleep, I because of how things have been this week. Last week, obviously, like I was really feeling quite unwell at the weekend. Not unwell, but really just so full. Like it was just, it was not comfortable, and I was very, very tired and just, I think, run down, overwhelmed, etc. by life. And I went to bed and I fell asleep on Sunday. I want to say I went to bed at probably 7 p.m. with a book. I was just like, let's just clear my mind and just read a book. And I went to bed, and I want to say I probably fell asleep about 8 o'clock, and I didn't wake up until 7 o'clock the following morning. So a huge sleep. So maybe that's the tail end of jet lag, who knows? But anyway, whatever, it set me on a good course for the rest of the week, and trying to sort of get through the rest of the week. Calories this week, what I can say is my calories have been up. They've been up a little bit from the previous week because I have been eating quite carb heavy this week. I follow a lowish carb. I don't follow low carb, but I follow a lowish carb diet. Um, so carbs are not a priority for me. I focus on protein and fats and vegetables, and that suits me very well. But this week, just because of trying to eat lighter so I can eat more, because I didn't have a great sort of suppression week the week before. Carbs are quite easy to eat, and they're quite high in calories, if you pair them with other things. So yeah, I have had a higher carb week this week. My calories have still evened out to about 1300, but bearing in mind, like at the weekend, I probably made no more than 500 calories a day. I did eat in not excess, but I ate up my calories. So there were some days where I was up near 1600 calories, and that was, like I said, quite carb heavy. Um, and I know for me, carbs are what make me gain weight. And whether you agree with that or not, that is a fact for me. So so there you go. Yeah, carb heavy week. Non-scale victories. Non-scale victories. I've noticed that, like, I don't have abs. Let's put that out there. I don't have abs, but I've started to notice like dips and hollows in different places. And also, I don't think you can see it here, but like my like I can feel the bones of my rib cage. And I can't remember ever doing that before. And also, like, my clavicle, like when you can see that, a lot of people can tell that they've lost weight when you can see a dip there. So yeah, but I've got dips, and not just in my sort of like midriff area, so to speak, but also in my thighs. Like there's my thighs kind of like dip in a bit rather than, yeah, meeting in the middle. I don't have a thigh gap. I don't think I'll ever have a thigh gap. But yeah, so that's like a mini non-scale victory. Oh, and my forearms, you can sort of see the muscles in my forearms sort of like quite clearly. I have been keeping up on the weights, and I've been doing my rebounding, my mini trampoline, which I am still loving. I haven't done much running in the last 2 weeks. I have been on the treadmill, but I haven't been doing my sprints just because I haven't had the energy. Like I really, like, even though I was walking on the treadmill, and I tried to do a sprint, and I really felt it took it out of me. So the rebounding is quite high intensity, and I seem to be able to um, get on with that and manage it. But they're very short bursts, so it's like a 30 to 60-second burst of like a high intensity, and then you move on to a different kind of um, movement. So it chops and changes, so it keeps it interesting. Whereas kind of when you're running or sprinting, you're just doing that. So, but yeah, but I'm keeping up the weights. I don't really post on here about my body composition. I have got one of those Renfo scales, and somebody did make a comment that you lose muscle mass. So whilst I have lost muscle mass since the start of my journey, I've lost a percentage, but it's quite low. But it's weird because my overall muscle mass has gone down like a small percentage. I think it was like 3% maybe. Um, my skeletal muscle has gone up 2%. Yeah, I think 2%. Um, so yeah, so I'm not quite sure how that works out. I'm not sort of body composition aware enough to be able to comment on that, but I think it's kind of balancing out. I know that my bottom is quite soft. So I am doing squats and things like that, but yeah, I don't have like one of those nice round rears. I used to. I used to have a very big booty, but yeah, the junk in the trunk has has gone. Hopefully, it will return if I keep up with the squats and things like that. But yes, I certainly don't look like those TikTok and Instagram influencers that have the very pert derrieres. That's not me. Is that too much information? I don't know. But anyway, um, goals. So I missed last week. I had to put it in the kind of like as an add-on. I'm in the 180s. That was a mini goal. And I skipped over it last week. I had so many other things that I was saying, I skipped over that. So yeah, I made it into the 180s. So that's a small tick. My next big interim goal is 175. So I'll come to weight loss in a minute and how far away I am from that. But I'm not that far away from it. I'm in the 80s, yeah, 180s. So I'm well on my way to that. So I did miss that last week. That was a bit of an achievement. Um, I'm over 60 pounds down now, and I calculated my percentage weight loss since the start of this Mounjaro journey and my overall percentage since starting this of weight loss is 24.6 pounds. I've nearly lost a quarter of my starting body weight. That's huge. So I'm percentage wise over and above what they expect you to lose within 18 months on Mounjaro. So I've probably lost quicker than they calculate most people lose. I don't know how they do those statistics when they work them out, but yeah, nearly 25%, 0.4% away from 25% of my body weight. So yeah, that's I'm really happy with that. If you think about it, when I get to my goal weight of around 140, 150, who knows where I'll stop along the way, um, I'll have lost over £100. So that will be a significant amount. It won't be 50% of my weight, but it'll be quite a high percentage of my weight. So speaking of weight, let's get on because yeah, I'm dragging this out a little bit longer than probably needs to be. So last week, I'm going to look at this. Last week I weighed in at 187.6, 187 pounds, 0.6, or 13 stone 5.6, or 85.1 kilos. And last week I had a weight loss of 2.4 pounds, which is quite a big one for me. This week I've weighed in at 186.8, or 13 stone 4.8, or 84.7 kilos. So I've lost a total this week of 0.8 pounds. So not quite a pound, but I'm happy with 0.8. Yeah. So, and again, it goes to show you that just because you're not eating as much does not equate to a bigger weight loss on the scale. So I'm always about sort of keeping your calories to a reasonable diet level. So 1200 to 1400, 1500 is about normal for me. And like I said, Saturday, Sunday, I barely scraped in at sort of more than 600 calories, I think, for the day, and then made up for it during the week. Like I said, carbs are easy for me to eat. That's why I don't eat so many of them, and I do find that they kind of can be very quick up the calorie scale compared to when you're eating protein and vegetables. So I've lost a total of 61 pounds since starting, and yeah, I'm very happy with 61 pounds. Um, One thing I haven't mentioned, or I might have mentioned it, I'm not sure, is my BMI is now under 30. So it's taken a long time to get there. But yeah, my BMI is 29.3. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I know it's not as big a metric as it used to be, but I'm happy with that, and I'm using it as kind of like a benchmark because also a lot of the providers use the BMI as a benchmark for when they'll stop prescribing Mounjaro. So I don't ever think I'm going to get down low enough that they'll stop prescribing me, just because I enjoy food too much and I don't really intend to go too far. I'm not going to turn into one of these skinny celebs. Um, but yeah, right. I'm going to wrap that up because, as always, I should change it to Ginger waffles on rather than Ginger goes GLP. But Ginger goes on a waffly rant. So thanks very much for watching. If you have made it to the end, if you do like my content, please do like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a positive comment for somebody else if they're doing well, or a supportive comment if they're struggling. And thanks again to everybody who's watching. I hope you are having an okay time with this yourself. And don't be afraid to reach out if you just want a little bit of a positive comment from somebody. All right, thanks everybody. Take care, and I hope you have a good week going ahead.